For generations, the T-Series main battle tank stood as the steel backbone of Soviet, and later Russian, military might. They embodied the doctrine of mechanized dominance. Fast-moving armored divisions rolling across Europe, overwhelming any defender through sheer mass and momentum. The silhouette of a T-Series tank, compact and low to the ground, became a global symbol of Moscow's industrial reach and battlefield strength. But 2 years after launching their full-scale invasion of Ukraine, that symbol lies shattered. Burned-out hulls, blown-off turrets, and twisted steel carcasses litter the Ukrainian countryside. What Russia once marketed as the pride of its armored force has become evidence of one of the largest catastrophic failures in modern military history. The T-Series legend is collapsing, and the reasons run far deeper than bad tactics or undertrained crews. The truth is stark. Russia's concept of armored warfare has reached the end of its evolution. The entire foundation on which Soviet tank design was built has collided head-on with a new era of cheap, precision-guided weapons and pervasive drone warfare. The T-Series is no longer simply outdated, it is fundamentally obsolete. At the core of this downfall are three forces that Russia cannot overcome: a fatal design flaw embedded into every Soviet-era hull, an asymmetric kill chain that far outclasses Russian armor, and an attrition rate so extreme that Russia's defense industry cannot replace what is being destroyed. Ukraine has become the proving ground for this new technological revolution, where low-cost, high-precision systems routinely defeat heavy, expensive armored vehicles. The result, the Russian tank has transitioned from a battlefield asset into an easy, high-value target. From the earliest weeks of the war, the world saw images of Russian tanks with their turrets blown sky-high, the infamous jack-in-the-box effect. That single visual revealed the deep structural flaw that has haunted Soviet tank design for half a century. The vulnerability originates in a choice made in the 1960s and 1970s when Moscow prioritized low silhouettes and mass production over crew protection and survivability. Western designers built tanks around the idea that preserving a well-trained crew mattered more than shaving a few centimeters off the vehicle's height. The Soviet Union made the opposite choice. In an era of expected large-scale tank battles across Europe, Soviet doctrine viewed tanks and their crews as disposable. That philosophy shaped the design of the T-64, T-72, T-80, and T-90. To keep the tank compact and affordable, Soviet engineers relied on an autoloader that replaced the human loader. It reduced the crew to 3 men and allowed the turret to shrink dramatically. But the autoloader came with a trade-off so catastrophic that it would one day doom the entire platform. A carousel of ammunition stored directly beneath the turret, sitting just a few inches from the crew. This design turned every T-Series tank into a loaded bomb. A single penetration through the side armor, or even a hit from above or behind, could ignite the stacked propellant charges. The resulting overpressure forces the explosion to vent upward, ripping the turret off the chassis with devastating violence. When this happens, the vehicle is destroyed instantly, and the crew has no chance of survival. NATO tanks, by contrast, store ammunition in isolated compartments fitted with blowout panels. These sacrificial panels channel explosions away from the crew, allowing crews of Abrams or Leopard tanks to survive hits that would instantly kill the crew of any Russian tank.
This doctrinal difference means that almost every successful strike against a Russian tank results in a total loss of both the machine and its crew. And in a war of attrition, losing experienced tank operators is far more damaging than losing the hardware itself. But even this structural flaw might not have doomed the T-Series. if the battlefield had remained dominated by tank-on-tank engagements. Instead, the war in Ukraine evolved into a battlefield where cheap, smart weapons outclass traditional armor at every turn. The introduction of advanced Western anti-tank missiles gave Ukraine an immediate advantage. The Javelin, with its fire-and-forget infrared seeker and devastating top attack profile, bypassed the thick frontal armor of Russian tanks and struck them where they were weakest, on the thin roof. Its tandem warhead neutralized Russia's advanced reactive armor systems, rendering them nearly useless. But the Javelin was only the opening act. The real revolution came with the arrival of thousands of first-person view, FPV, kamikaze drones, cheap, plentiful, precise, and lethal. Costing a fraction of a single tank shell, these drones turned the battlefield transparent. No Russian tank could move, halt, or even take cover without the risk of being spotted, stalked, and hit by a drone controlled from miles away. FPV drones don't always need to destroy a tank outright. A mobility kill, damaged tracks, destroyed optics, a pierced engine cover is enough to disable the vehicle and turn it into a sitting target. Once immobilized, the tank is finished. Artillery, drone swarms, or follow-up strikes complete the kill. Ukraine now deploys tens of thousands of these drones every month, many equipped with rudimentary AI to maintain target lock even under Russian jamming. Meanwhile, Russia has failed to deploy effective active protection systems across its main armored units. While Western tanks increasingly field systems like the Israeli Trophy, capable of shooting down incoming missiles, Russia still relies primarily on reactive armor designed for Cold War threats. Attempts to compensate with improvised cope cages have backfired, adding weight, reducing mobility, and doing little to stop precision drones descending from above. Yet the most devastating element in Russia's armored collapse is economic. Russia has lost over 3,000 tanks, more than its entire pre-war active fleet. To keep fighting, Moscow now pulls aging T-55s and T-62s out of rusting storage yards, refurbishing obsolete vehicles that cannot survive even a single modern anti-tank hit. Production cannot keep pace. Sanctions have crippled Russia's access to thermal imagers, microchips, and precision machine tools. New tanks are assembled with inferior components or scavenged electronics. The result is a shrinking, deteriorating armored force increasingly reliant on outdated models. This is why Russia's tank losses cannot be replaced. And this is why the T-Series era is ending, not temporarily, but permanently. Today, Russian tanks entering Ukraine are no longer symbols of power. They are symbols of a doctrine that failed to adapt. They are liabilities to the crews inside them. They are monuments to outdated thinking in a world where drones, sensors, and precision weapons defined victory. The Russian tank, once the spearhead of Soviet military power, has become a rolling coffin on modern battlefields. Its defeat is now locked in by technology, economics, and doctrine. And the collapse of Russia's armored forces marks the end of the Cold War philosophy of mass-produced, expendable tanks. To fully understand the new battlefield that destroyed Russia's armored might, you need to witness the very systems that reshaped modern warfare.